came around, I was actually really scared. I was more scared of the vaccine than I was COVID itself. I wasn't really worried about COVID. It was the vaccine itself I was very concerned about. You know, just like the rest of the world, especially where we were living at the time in Charlottesville, Virginia, it was mandated and it was forced. And she made it all through COVID without it. And when it was time to return to school, it was required, or you can't come back. I want to say about 6 days later, 5-6 days later, we were in the kitchen and she was telling me that she was having trouble breathing. And then she went into cardiac arrest. And unfortunately, we had to take her off of life support. She had big dreams, and it's heartbreaking that, those dreams were cut short.
Welcome to the React 19 podcast, where we bring awareness and support to the COVID-19 vaccine injured and discuss the science, research, and laws that affect all of us. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us again today. I'm Ann Forty, the host of the React 19 podcast. And today we have two guests joining us to discuss the personal tragedy they have witnessed from the COVID vaccines. Angela Farkas's 16-year-old daughter, Alyssa, developed difficulty breathing just hours after her second Pfizer vaccination, then went into cardiac arrest and tragically was removed from life support just 7 days later. Also joining us is Dr. Deborah Newitz, who has been an associate clinical professor of medicine and a primary care physician for 31 years. Within 2 months of administering the first COVID vaccines in December of 2020, Deborah was alarmed by her patients' frequent reports of myocarditis, autoimmune disorders, and cases of blood count suppression. In addition, a friend called her one morning saying that her completely healthy 18-year-old nephew had suddenly died after 2 COVID vaccinations, which had been mandated to attend college. His autopsy revealed that the cause of death is pulmonary emboli. Unfortunately, as we are aware, these stories have been all too frequent, and they must continue to be told and to be documented, which is why we are here today. Angela and Deborah, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Angela, first, my heartfelt condolences to you on the loss of your precious daughter. It is a hard road to travel, and I appreciate your willingness to talk about it. And I would just like to start by giving you an opportunity to share with us some things you most loved about Alyssa.
Okay, sure. I don't know if we have enough time for all of that on this, but I'll try to keep it brief. Oh God, Alyssa. Where do I start? So I would say she's just like the most wholesome kid. Even, from the day she was born all the way up until 16 years old, she was always good. She never got in trouble. She's never been punished. She's always been a good-natured soul.
Was she a firstborn?
She was, yeah. Okay. Second born is very different.
Yeah.
Yes, she is my firstborn. She's just always been a really good kid. When leading up, as a kid, she did ballet and she tried soccer for a little bit, and she was huge into fashion from a very early age. She loved fashion, and as she got older, she started to develop more interest in fashion that led into music. Huge Harry Styles fan. She felt, arguably, she thought he was the greatest musician that ever lived. She would debate that regardless.
Wow.
She also had a huge passion for Paris, France. I promised her that we would go there one day. We weren't able to take her, unfortunately, because she passed away. But we do plan to go there and scatter a couple of her ashes so I can keep my promise. And I would say her biggest accomplishment happened in probably the first year of COVID. She read, I believe it was 52 novels.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, I have a great photo of her. I could quickly screen share real quick if you want me to.
Oh, sure. Oh my gosh. Wow.
So, yes, this is, those are all the books that she read when COVID kicked off. So we were very proud of her.
Wow.
She wasn't a really big book reader before, but that's what led into it. I'll stop sharing here. And ultimately that led her to just be She wrote her own book. I found it after she had passed. It was about 165 pages long.
Oh
Here
my
we
God.
are 4 years later. I just picked it up. I just haven't been able to read it, and I'm halfway through it, and I'm very impressed with it. So she might have been an author one day. I know she was interested in mental illness and psychology. She was reading the DSM book on her own for, just for her own knowledge and for fun. I mean, she had big dreams, and it's heartbreaking that those dreams were cut short.
So hard. So hard. So what led you to have her vaccinated? I mean, what was going on in your
Yeah,
life where
sure. So, I was never against vaccines. I was 24 when I had her, and I did what everyone else does. They listened to the society and their doctors, and my kids got the full gamut of all their vaccines. My sister-in-law does not vaccinate her kids. So I think as over the years
Mm,
and actually just learning from her, I mean, she's someone that really studied every single vaccine and made her decision as to why not vaccinate. And then when COVID came around, I was actually really scared. I was more scared of the vaccine than I was COVID itself. I wasn't really worried about COVID. It was the vaccine itself I was very concerned about. They rolled it out very quickly, but just like the rest of the world, especially where we were living at the time in Charlottesville, Virginia,
mm,
it was mandated and it was forced. And she made it all through COVID without it. And when it was time to return to school, it was required, or you can't come back.
oh.
Yeah. So, and
It's
we
interesting.
finally got.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
It's just
that's
interesting
okay.
now that people are saying, "Oh, people were never coerced to take the vaccine. Nobody was ever forced." Well,
Oh,
anyway, I'm sorry.
absolutely. I mean,
It's
yeah. I mean, and they can't say that again. I was the head of HR for a company, and I had to mandate it from my employees. I know nothing about it. I had to put it in our documents, and I didn't feel that I had any place to put this,
wow.
for our employees. So yeah, it was definitely mandated, especially where we were.
Wow. So she gets the vaccine and
And the first vaccine was fine, no issues. Second vaccine, that night, just past midnight. So we're probably within 12 hours of the time that she got the vaccine. I got a text message from her saying, "Mommy, I don't feel well." Um, and things unfolded from there. I mean, she progressively got worse over the next few days. She started to develop severe congestion. And I think, based on what you heard with the vaccines is, a lot of people, just get sick after the vaccine. And,
right.
that's what we're hearing from people. And, I didn't feel like it was any different from any other time that she was sick. And she just, a couple of days later, I thought we were turning the corner, and it was early in the morning. I want to say I think it was Wednesday, Thursday. I want to say about 6 days later, 5, 6 days later, we were in the kitchen, and she was telling me that she was having trouble breathing. And then she went into cardiac arrest, and we tried calling an ambulance, which didn't come very quickly given, it was COVID and how things were. Our neighbors in EMS. So we ran across the street and we got him. And so, they were able to revive her, um, brought her to the hospital. I remember distinctly one of the doctors coming to me saying, "I'm cautiously optimistic that she'll make it through this alive." And it was so scary because in that moment I'm very positive in my thinking. So the fact that we were even
Yeah.
contemplating that was, was traumatizing. And she didn't. Just a couple days later, it's bad when the doctors bring you into a boardroom, and they sat us down. They asked us to describe her and talk about her, which we did, and they told us that she would never be that child, that she was brain dead,
Oh,
and without telling us we had a decision to make. I mean, obviously we read through the lines, and we had a decision to make. And unfortunately, we had to take her off of life support.
I Was she conscious? I mean, did she know what was happening to her, or
No.
was it once she went
Um,
into cardiac arrest, that was it?
so she went into cardiac arrest when they revived her. She was never conscious. They brought her into the hospital, and I remember the doctor telling us that she had been she followed instructions to wiggle her toes, um, which I thought was, great news. But, not, and obviously a lot is blurred through that time because,
Right.
when she came out and she was, came up to her room and um, we never, we never really saw her again. Just even the condition that she was in. She was having a lot of seizures. I remember her fever was at 108. Um, I mean, just bizarre behaviors. Her eyes were, just a lot of blinking, 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 and just not her normal
Right,
behaviors,
right. All
obviously.
the neurological.
Yeah, yeah,
She had the
and
neurological, she had
yeah.
the heart issues. It sounded like I mean,
Hmm.
all the things that, certainly here at React 19 that we have seen.
And
So go ahead.
she had never had any heart condition at all, which was also very scary as well.
Did any doctor say, did you bring it up? Hey, she just had the vaccine. What was the conversation like about
Yeah,
that?
we did address that because again, I was so concerned with vaccinating to begin with. It was
Right.
one of the first questions, we shared. We had said to them, she just got the vaccine yesterday. Um, it was quickly dismissed. It was quickly disputed that it was not the vaccine.
And
And it
okay,
was, and there was no conversation. There
that was
was no
it.
conversation. It was not anything that they were willing to investigate. They were so certain it had nothing to do with it.
It's really hard to just listen to this
Yeah, it is.
and to know that it has happened again and again and again.
Yeah.
I'm just so sorry. I'm just so sorry. So, can you remind me again, where are we? Are we in 2021? Are we at the end of 21, 22? Where are we when this happens?
This was October 2021, and she passed October 5th of 2021.
Okay. I want to remind the viewers and the listeners, just just so that everyone listening is aware that in January of 2021, the NIH, the CDC, and the FDA were all aware that there were thousands of vaccine injuries taking place. They flew the co-founder of React 19, Brianne Dressen, out to the NIH and others in January of 2021. They said, oh, yeah, we're going to help you. We'll let the public know what's going on. So they were well aware that these issues were happening, but they said nothing to the public. They said nothing to, physicians or anyone else. And then they ended up ghosting those that they said that they would help. They literally stopped contact with those that were injured. This is the reality. Had that information been put out right away, Alyssa could be here. And I think that is why it is so important for every story to be told. That's why, React 19, their goal obviously is to advocate for those who are still here and injured, and continue to be unbelieved. But that is why this is so important. And so I'd like to kind of bring Deborah into this, Dr. Newitz. Here you are, physician for 31 years. Tell us a little bit about, your background. You were also associate professor. Tell us what you were seeing. Tell us what brought you into this.
Well, I was always employed in New York. And in New York, the first 10 years of my career were pivotal. I was at Albert Einstein College of Medicine at Montefiore. And the instruction and the leaders there were inspiring. Everybody cared about furthering scientific knowledge. The end game was to make patients better, cure them, make them feel better. No questions were denied or ignored. And that, I carried on for the next 20 years. And in New York, thankfully, I was allowed to um, uh, behave and work individually. So I was not criticized, but I certainly wasn't, recognized for, none of my patients were hospitalized, none of my patients were dying.
This is during COVID, we're talking?
Well, even before COVID.
Okay.
And during COVID, it came to the point where I actually had to work around guidelines. So I actually called the chairman of medicine, and I was very excited. I said, antibiotics work against COVID. Oseltamivir, Tamiflu works against COVID. And I actually just did a study with Mobeen at React 19 for treating COVID vaccine injured with oseltamivir. And I was so excited. And there were case reports over the world of, I think there were about 10 other cases. And I said, we have to do this. We have to implement this. And his response is, that's great. It doesn't make sense. So just keep thinking about it. So, I heard in the news and with my colleagues, patient after patient dying, and my patients were living. And it was just sad and horrifying. And, but yet again, I could work and do what I thought was best when I was in the office. When I got to the hospital, I had to work in conjunction with guidelines. So I was not allowed to prescribe oseltamivir to patients who were influenza negative tested. And so I learned how to work around the system, and I kept saying that the patients were exposed to influenza. So then I was allowed to prescribe it. And I remember pointing out to my colleagues, the patients were getting better and they were leaving the hospital. And
as long as you said it wasn't COVID.
They were apathetic. And I don't think, doctors are at fault of this, having worked for the last 2 years in Tennessee, where I really endured shutdown and silencing, and where, I had in writing that my administration of COVID and RSV vaccines were, less than others. And I was ordering too many tests, and I was like working up too many diseases and too many problems. And they just wanted us to refer to specialists, not do any thinking.
Yeah. So you were not allowed to practice medicine.
Doctors are reduced to being robotic and not, as I say, they're not chefs anymore. They're factory producers. And what nobody seems to realize is that Secretary Kennedy has made tremendous strides in medicine. Dr. Oz, all of HHS. What they don't realize is you still call a pediatrician's office and they ask, is your child immunized? And if you say no, they will not accept the patient. The thinking behind this, and I received this letter from my last position, that I would be terminated if I didn't give sufficient vaccines. And so doctors are not going to quit their jobs and be unemployed after so many years of dedication. This is in your blood. This is your dreams, your hopes, everything that makes you work. So, it's devastating. So it's really on top. We have to filter out these corrupt administrators, these drug companies. There can't be incentivized funding from the NIH and CDC. It has to be third parties who, cite the reports. They cite the reports. There was too much money at stake and too much power at stake to come out and say the COVID vaccine, the adverse effects probably exceeded the benefits.
Right.
So, and then the other thing is doctors are not only being threatened to be terminated, they also, their finances and their salary depends on, do they complete certain tasks? So the pediatricians, if they don't give enough vaccines, their salary will be lowered. So it's called merit-based medicine, and they get a scorecard. So we have to eliminate this. We have to, as I say with primary care, psychiatry, pediatrics, we have to go back to 25 years ago. You asked me, what do I recommend when somebody's looking for a doctor?
Right.
Look for a doctor who's 50 years old or greater. Look for a doctor who's actually not working at a major institution, and they can't be fired or terminated or silenced.
Joel Walskog, who the other co-founder of React 19, has talked about that. He's an orthopedic surgeon, and he has talked about how it used to be that 85% of the doctors were not affiliated, with a major hospital or whatever. They were solo, and 15% were, and now that's completely flipped. So you're locked in. These physicians are locked in to what the hospitals demand, and therefore what CMS demands. Or we're not. I don't know how many people are aware that with the CARES Act that happened during COVID, hospitals were basically reimbursed for harming people. I mean, you had to, if your patient had COVID, if you put them on a ventilator, you got money. Remdesivir had to be used. You couldn't use anything else. You know this better than I do.
Right.
And if your patient died, you got money. I mean, it was just, I don't know why people think that the gods of truth live at the FDA, CDC, and NIH. Well, probably we have more hope now than we did in the last administration when everyone was censored and everything was covered up. And, but somehow we have to change we have to have a paradigm shift within our communities that how do we break the safe and effective narrative? And, right now it's our current legislation session here in Indiana. And right after I finish this call, I'm on another call with somebody who's Hoosiers for Medical Liberty. She heads up, reading all the laws and everything. And they're like, well, because we want to make vaccine mandates, illegal, but people are so afraid. I mean, how do we get people to not be afraid of the measles or of chickenpox, or just to know that, we can't, the people are like, well, you need to assume this risk because my child can't take it. Well, what about the risk that my child might have, that they might die or, show up on the autism scale? I mean, as a physician, and as a mother, Angela, I mean, do you guys have any thoughts on how we can break through this? Because I feel like states are really going to dig their heels in and say, we're going to mandate this now.
And as a parent,
from my point of view, the HHS controls all the money. So they have to start listening to the public. I've reached out to politicians. I've reached out to lawyers. I've reached out to HHS. I've applied for advisory committees. I know who the good institutions are. I now know who the bad institutions are. You fund the people who are ethical, who are not compromised. We know who they are. And they have all the control, and they can do that. And the other thing is, we live in a world with social media. Everybody's so involved with everybody else's activities. If you are scared of measles and you want to get the MMR vaccine, then you can do it.
You should be able to do it 100%.
No vaccine should be mandated. We don't
Right.
mandate surgery. We don't mandate medications. I mean, can you imagine a doctor firing a patient because they refuse surgery or a medication?
Right.
So why is there this exception with vaccination? So we just have to stand up to it, and everybody has to unite, and we have to listen to each other. We can do this. There are plenty of people that feel, the way both of you do. We just have to funnel the money and support in that direction.
I just feel that until public opinion changes, politicians don't change. They go, where's public opinion on this? They follow with the way the wind is. And so somehow the public needs to get educated that medical choice is the answer. Vaccine choice is the answer. Like,
right.
You have them, you want them. So yeah, Angela, your thoughts on any of this?
It's exactly what you said. It's medical freedom. I mean, as a parent, I want to be able to make that final determination as to whether or not my kids get vaccinated. So, for example, with my youngest daughter now, Nessa, she hasn't gotten any boosters. She won't get any boosters. She won't get the flu shot. She'll be 18 in a year, and she can make her own decisions then. But as a parent, I think we should have the medical freedom to make the decisions for our kids and for ourselves.
Right. So I'm going to ask both of you the same question. I'll start with you, Angela. What were you most surprised or shocked by as you walked through this? Did people believe you when you thought it was the vaccine? I don't know, maybe people's response. Tell us about that.
Well, obviously it's not something that I was so broadly open with, but my network, my friends and family, and these are discussions that we've had, but it's a no-brainer, right? It wasn't a couple months down the line and trying to pinpoint it. She had the vaccine just a few hours prior. And she passed away. So, facts are facts. I mean, she had a vaccine, she passed away. And, it was heartbreaking that, the doctors wouldn't listen to me. It wasn't something that they were willing to at least explore. It's not something that I was so, I wasn't posting on social media about it. I wasn't,
Right.
Wasn't something that I was broadly sharing, but, in the conversations I've had with people, it was never really questioned. I mean, it just seemed, what we saw and it was truth to us.
And was that surprising to you from the doctors, or did you pretty much expect that?
No, I just feel, and also, through, over the course of the years, with my daughters, I feel that the doctors just don't want to touch it, right? They don't want to get involved. And I don't think there are not many Dr. Newitzes out there, right? That really want to, stick their necks out and be the ones to champion these efforts and try to stand up for you or whatnot. They really just don't want to touch it. So was I surprised? No, I was not surprised. I mean, it would have been nice, but no.
Okay, so Deborah, what was there anything that really shocked? Were you surprised by your peers? Were you surprised, their silence, or maybe they weren't silent? I mean, was anyone as vocal as you? Tell us about what was going on with your peers.
Nobody's vocal. Nobody. I think
even though they saw the same.
I think the fear of losing your job. I met with Dr. McCullough. He lost his license. Yeah. He lost his boards. I think the repercussions are so bad. I mean, I walked away after working for 31 years. I have money saved. I could do that. Could I have done this 30 years ago? No. Maybe switch careers, become a writer or something, else, using my medical knowledge. But, we have to change it, and we have to be more vocal. And these institutions that are silencing observations have to be shut down. They have to be punished. And we have the power to do it. We have to have the will.
Do you think that there will be any accountability?
I think so. I believe in karma. unfortunately, it might not be accountability in terms of Congress or lawyers or whatever, but I do believe that it sounds so like trite, but what goes around comes around. And I think, I just want to restore medicine to what it was 25 years ago. It was so rewarding and just you were around the smartest people and were kind and funny and you made lives better. And we've got to turn back all the legislation. We have to cut back. We have to get rid of the merit-based reward system for doctors' scorecards. We have to, the insurance companies, we have to get rid of all the pre-authorizations. Dr. Oz is on that. We have to convert billing to just time-based. So we're not sitting there focusing on how we're typing up a note. We have to get back to taking care of patients. And we can do it.
So that clearly seems to be your point of advocacy right now. So what are you doing? I don't even know, how did you get involved with React 19? How did you hear about it? And then, yes, what are you working on now? I mean, specifically, I've just asked like 3 questions there. Let's start first. How did you get involved with React 19?
So I started watching the MAHA meetings on Wednesdays, Make America Healthy Again.
Right.
And React 19 was the only organization that bit. I sent out so many emails. I talked to politicians. As soon as I started telling them about the concerns I had at my most recent hospital employment, they got off the phone very quickly. I don't know if there's a power or finances, but there's a lot of fear. So physicians aren't functioning by, science, by observation. It's not evolving. There's a few people who are determining what the science is. And guidelines aren't guidelines anymore. They're really mandates, whether they make sense or not. But the money's out there. Patients shouldn't be paying this amount of money for insurance companies and doctors, and they shouldn't have so many barriers to tests being ordered. The medical complexity, it's all diverted. It's away from reimbursing patients and doctors. It's all with billing, insurance companies, and it's because it's useless job creation. So it's a very unpopular decision to fire all these people who don't really have a useful job.
For 20 years now, I have had 8 kids, so I've had ample opportunity to rack up some bills. But for the last over 20 years, we've been part of a health sharing. We don't do any traditional medical insurance. It's just it's a Christian health sharing. And I can tell you, I mean, the freedom that has given us, like I can, as long as the doctor is willing to order it. I mean, fortunately, I've had some good doctors. But, typically when you come in and say you're paying cash, that your cash pay, I mean, the MRI drops from 2,400 to 400. I mean, it's just wild. Of course, when I go in and say, well, how much is this going to cost? Like I remember one time I went to the doctor and she's like, well, I'd recommend that. And I'm like, well, how much do you think that will cost? And she said, probably about $80. Well, I get the bill and it's like 900 and something. Like the doctors have no clue on how much anything costs. I mean, it's just, so, I mean, I've seen this firsthand living it for 20 years. Right. But okay, so right now, are you practicing medicine or?
No.
Okay. So
certainly not in the near future. I want to fix it. I've applied to HHS for healthcare advisory committees. I actually just started writing a book.
Okay.
I think, patients should maybe learn how to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
We're doing the wrong blood test for B12, Lyme's. I have patients and friends text me all the time. What do you think of this?
Yeah.
So I'm giving out advice to everybody, all my friends. So
So are you
Yeah.
still licensed to practice if you wanted
Yes.
to? Okay.
Yes.
So this is just a conscious decision. I'm not going to be part of the system. I am going
No,
to,
we have
my
to fix
focus is
it.
to fix this. Okay. So was there anything that you, and maybe you feel like you've already answered this, but was there anything that was completely shocking to you in walking through the COVID era where you were like, I cannot believe this is happening?
Um, well, in New York, I was not shocked, because it was a progressive um, lifestyle that I started sort of operating more and more outside of the healthcare guidelines. Like my patients, my friends started telling me, I like you because you think outside the box. And I started to think, well, maybe we should make the box bigger. Maybe this box is too small. And then the less than 2 years that I worked in Tennessee, I probably cried every single day. I couldn't deliver good health care. I felt more like an executioner than a healthcare provider, a healer. And the beginning to the end, there were two things. I received a letter in writing saying that I had to refrain from talking about politics. And a week after President Trump was inaugurated, a whole email was sent out to the entire Department of Medicine saying the news is very unsettling. Okay. 2 months later, it was followed up by another letter sent to the entire Department of Medicine that the current presidential administration has different evolving priorities than previously. Okay, so I'm thinking, so I can't talk about politics, but you can when it fits your narrative and ideology.
And it's
But
really
and
not
then
about politics. I mean, I'm sure from your
right,
perspective, it wasn't, I mean, you just wanted to be like, hey, I just want to be about science. Can we just,
right,
let's take, let's take the politics out of it, although
yes,
that's almost impossible. I mean, people always say, oh, I don't want to be involved in politics, but yet everything we do every day, whether it's paying taxes or everything we do
it's
does
political,
involve politics, but
right.
yet somehow, working within this framework of, okay, I don't want to be political, but you're making it political. Not you,
Right,
but
right.
powers that be.
No, I never discussed politics per se,
Right.
but my decision making on vaccines and medications and ordering tests was they determined was political.
Yeah, isn't that some, you just make a
Right,
decision and they just put you into that group over there.
right.
Um,
But I think the next pivotal moment was when I received a phone call, very unsettling phone call from my administrator stating that a patient had gone to them. Um, they were receiving chemotherapy and wanted to know whether they should be administered the COVID vaccine. And I said, you should ask your oncologist. And the phone call basically was saying you don't defer to any specialists. You just give the COVID vaccine.
oh my gosh.
And several weeks later, I had a patient come in who was pregnant. And knowing that 83% of women who received the COVID vaccine miscarried, she said to me, should I get the COVID vaccination? And I received a letter that the number of COVID vaccines that I was administering was much lower than my colleagues and that expected. Knowing that if I said you shouldn't get it, I would probably be terminated or punished or something. So I said to her, knowing that I would probably be rebuked for saying, have you talked to your gynecologist? And she said, I did ask my gynecologist about it. And the gynecologist said, ask your internist.
Oh,
So there's a fear, there's a climate of
it's
fear
just
and
totally.
censure and silencing. And she just sat there and cried. And I refused to answer her because I knew. And that was the beginning to the end for me when, you
Wow.
can't
You can't
have
practice medicine.
a relationship with your patients and
Right.
can't say what you've observed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Um, Going back, did you fill out a VAERS report?
Did not, no.
No. Did you even know
No.
to do that?
Um, I didn't until well after someone who was very vocal posting on Instagram about it had actually shared the information with me, but no, I didn't fill one out.
Would you consider filling one out just to have it on record, just so it can be in a database, or you just,
Yeah, I mean, I guess at this point, I mean, obviously it's been, years since she's passed now, and but I would love to just understand more about, about the database and the importance of having this information there, and yeah, I would absolutely consider filling it out.
well, I think it's important to get her data in there. I mean, there's a whole bunch of, controversy around VAERS. I mean, before the
Mhm.
vaccine, it's like, oh, we have this great database and we'll be watching everything and we have all this record. And then after the COVID, shot comes out and there's, hundreds of thousands of reports. It's like, oh, well, you can't trust that. I mean, it was just total doublespeak. What about you, Deborah? Did you file any VAERS reports for any of the conditions that you saw in your patients?
I did not, but I know my patients did.
Okay.
And my friend whose nephew died from the COVID vaccine, who had a pulmonary embolism confirmed on autopsy,
Mm.
they did file a VAERS report and they did try to hire a lawyer. Um, and lawyers will not take vaccine cases because the companies are immune
Yeah,
to
because of the PrEP
litigation.
Act. Yeah, because of the PrEP Act. Yeah, it is. When I started doing interviews, what surprised me is how many medical professionals, nurses, didn't even know what VAERS was.
Right.
They didn't even, they were never, this is something that's required by law that if you feel that you don't have to, it doesn't have to be, oh, I'm certain of this. It's like, my patient had this reaction. I'm just going to report this adverse reaction. So many medical professionals didn't even know about it. I think, a lot more people know about it now, but before that, it's just like, I didn't even know I was supposed to do that, So again, I think this was a question that I had wanted to ask you was how do you think I don't either one of you how do you think we can bring back or bring more safety to vaccines? I mean, you've been in the medical field 31 years. What do you think? Okay, well, I think you've already answered it by getting these institutions out. And I don't know, maybe that's the answer. Is there anything more you would add to that where we can have more vaccine safety for those who wish to have a vaccine?
We need to have an independent organization who doesn't care about the financial outcomes, who,
Hmm.
is not, hungry for, money and power. Um, I actually heard Dr. Suzanne Humphreys
Mm.
talk, and I think she would be an amazing
Oh,
person
she would. She would.
to spearhead organizations to develop that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what can bring public trust back to public health. I mean, and I don't know how you change the people's minds who are so entrenched and you just sound like, a conspiracy theorist to, if to even question
Right.
vaccine. I mean, we seem so divided. It's funny, I've been in the vaccine conversation for over 30 years, and it was probably about 26 years ago. I was in the living room. We were living in California at the time, and I said, at some point, vaccines are going to divide this country, and here we
Yeah.
are. So,
Right. Right.
um, is there anything either one of you would like to share? Something I've forgotten to ask, or that you'd like to share that we haven't already talked about? Nope, covered it all. Okay, well, I want to thank you both so much for taking the time to be here today. Angela, I want to thank you for sharing Alyssa's story with us today. Just sharing with us and how Alyssa lived and your love for her, and how I'm sure that love for her and her story will undoubtedly minister to others in many different ways. We know it will. We don't know how, but a life just does not, go out. All the memories, the stories that we tell, the things we remember. And I thank you for taking the time to do that. And for either of you, as if you know other people who've been injured who'd like to tell their story, get in contact with us here. That's the point. React 19 wants to be, the microphone for those who have been so censored, so silenced, who've been completely abandoned by our institutions. And Dr. Newitz, I thank you so much for what you want to do going forward in trying to change the system, and all that you are going to teach those around you. So I look forward to, seeing you hired at HHS. And,
Hope so.
And
I need your assistant.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Yeah, that would
Be
be
with you all day,
very
all
organized.
night.
Yeah. Well, geez,
heading
up HR. Gosh, we didn't even touch on the moral question there, that you're putting this, you're demanding people, oh, you have to do this or you're going to get fired. I guess that's a point of another conversation. But I just thank you both for being here and sharing your stories.
Thank you,
and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Angela.
Yeah, thank you.